So I'm often asked, Barry, what's the best way to drink whiskey? Maui. Alright troops, welcome back, where I flap my gums for half an hour on the wonderful world of Scotch whisky. Today we're going to be drinking Springbank 9-year-old Local Barley, a beautiful wee whisky I picked up at the airport when I left Canada. Without further ado, pour ourselves a dram. Put the whisky counter on the screen and let's get fired in about it. So there's two camps when it comes to drinking whisky. It's the enjoyment of drinking whisky and it's the appreciation of drinking whisky. So whether you like to drink your whisky in a big rocks glass with a big ice cube or a couple of little ice cubes, or whether you like to drink it out of a Glencairn glass, it really boils down to the way you drink whisky is the way you like to drink it. So I'm going to talk tonight about the way I like to drink whisky and the way I appreciate a dram. So first of all, I do drink out of rocks glasses, mainly after I understand the whisky a bit more. If it's not super complex and I don't really want to sit and get into the nitty gritty of it, I'll pour a nice dram and I'll sit and watch the TV in a nice good quality rocks glass. I mostly drink whisky out of Glencairn. Now a Glencairn is a glass shaped like this that's fluted at the end, and that allows you more exploration of the whisky. It's mainly known as a nosing glass for the reason that it concentrates a lot of the flavours and you're able to explore a lot on the nose. They're terrible to drink out of because you have to tip your head all the way back just to get a little sip, but I mean, it's all down to your personal preference. The glass type does change the experience, but also the flavours and the texture and how the whisky opens up as well. So definitely experiment with different types of glasses. But I really recommend, if you haven't got a Glencairn and you really want to explore more whiskies and get into the little nitty gritty points of different whiskies, then absolutely invest in a pair of Glencairns. A pair, because the whisky's always more enjoyable with someone else to talk about. So we'll start with what you're going to need to really, for me, if you taste whisky like me, what you're really going to need to sit down and have a session, a little dram session with a whisky. You're going to need a Glencairn, something like this, a Glencairn glass. Sometimes they have a stem, sometimes they're stemless. It really all depends, but a classic Glencairn, this is the shape you'll get. And if you just type Glencairn into Amazon, I'm sure you'll come across lots of different types. What you're going to need also is some counsel juice, or from my English friends,
water. Pure water.
Really, if you're using anything except from Scotch tap water, then you're really doing yourself a disservice to the whole whisky industry. Best quality water going, don't at me bro. You're also going to need an open attitude to whisky. If you're starting off, it's going to be super astringent and hard to get into. But as one of my friends said recently, one half of the Dram Fine podcast crew, Pamela, she was on a whisky tasting and I was watching it, and she says she heard this from someone else, but be brave enough to be bad at something new. And I think that really goes hand in hand when it comes to Scotch whisky, because it isn't super approachable. You need to build your palate, you need to be open to having bad experiences with whisky, but one day it'll just click with you and you'll never look back. It's a whole wealth of knowledge in this little glass. Some kind of extra help would be a flavour wheel, something like this would definitely help you. It gives you the words to put to those flavours that you're getting. I know it's super hard for me, I really struggle with putting those flavours I find into words, and a flavour wheel definitely helps you. And also as well, don't be afraid to grab a tasting note of the whisky you're trying. If you're stuck for words and you're really struggling with the whisky, sometimes going with someone else's tasting notes and trying to figure out what they got in the whisky and find those flavours that they've found is a whole different experience as well, and it's really helpful to find your palate. I always start off with nosing the whisky. We talk about nosing the whisky, but it really is just sniffing it. So get a sniff.
Get them smelled, it's the good stuff.
Usually you'll start off by, and the kind of more acceptable way is, bringing it to your nose until it becomes sharp and then pulling it away. Keep your mouth open and allow the vapours to to come through your nose, out through your mouth. A lot of your taste is influenced by your nose, so you'll find I find a lot more flavours on the nose and a lot more pickable flavours on the nose than on my palate. So basically bring it to your nose, back it off to where it becomes acceptable and it becomes less hot and astringent to smell, and explore it. Spend a bit of time, just allow the whiskey to open up, breathe a little, keep going back to it. I can spend hours nosing. I think the real pleasure in whiskies is smelling it and how the flavours change and how the flavours come out and sometimes disappear and hide for a little bit, then come back with vengeance after you've added water, which we'll get to later. So once you're nosing it, first thing that comes to your head, say it out. Charcoal. This is a Springbank 9-year-old local barley. Springbank's a Campbelltown malt, so they're known for a little bit of peatiness on their whiskies, but they're also known for quite a sweetness. This has been sitting out a while and I do get more of that charcoaliness off the whiskey. It's the first thing that comes to your head. You're not wrong. If you're really struggling to find something, consult those tasting notes that I told you about earlier. Have a look at a few. You'll find a common flavour in those and really go for that and try and find the flavour. A little bit of vanilla, sweet tropical kind of flavours like a lemon zest, but it's kind of creamy underneath that as well, almost like a key lime pie or a lemon meringue. Next is the colour in the legs. People do this first. I just tend to mix it in with the nose. As you're letting the whiskey air and open up, give it a little swirl, check the colour of it. Sometimes the colour really indicates the age of the whiskey, the type of cask it's been in, but not all the time. There's some whiskies that are coloured, so take that in mind as well. Also the legs of the whiskey as well. When you swirl the whiskey round, you can do it this way. I tend to do it by rotating it round the glass like this. What that does, it coats the glass, the inside of the glass with the whiskey, and it really denotes the viscosity, the thickness of the whiskey as well. You can watch it run down the glass, and from there you take your assumptions of how thick the whiskey's going to be in your mouth. Now this is all before we've even tasted it. Go back for the nose. I like to explore. I use different nostrils and just try and really find it. So now we're on to the palate. Take a little sip. Swallow it. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
First sip's never a true indication of how the whiskey tastes anyway. You get your palate used to that sharp alcoholic burn. This is a 57% whiskey, so cask strength. It is quite hot in the first palate. So you've took that first sip, you've let it sit for a while. Now go in for a second and really pay attention to how the whiskey feels, the body of the whiskey. Is it thick, is it thin? Does it taste hot? Does it taste warm? Is it clammy? Is it cold? Is it cool? And drink it down. Spend a bit of time. You don't need to make all your assumptions in one sip. It's got a little bit of viscosity on it. They're known for their oily whiskies in Campbelltown because they're real close to the sea and they're on that peninsula. This is super interesting. I already know this needs some water to open up, but we're going to need to get to that later. So compare, when you then sip it, how does it compare to how it looked? It looks quite oily. It clings to the glass, as you'll kind of maybe be able to see here. And when you put it in your mouth, it feels kind of like that mid-bodied kind of oily whiskey as well. It lingers a little. Now the next sip, don't go reaching out for the flavour, really stick to the 5 universally known flavours or sensations. Salty, sweet, bitter, sour and umami. We can get scientific with this, and it's different parts of your tongue pick up on different flavours, but use those 5 to narrow down what you're tasting and expand on it. So bitter, a little sweet, sour and savoury. Bitter from kind of a bit of orange pith, citrus, kind of fruitiness, kind of half fruity, half bitter, orange peel and lemon zest. Savoury from that kind of salty, oily smokiness that you get. There's also a bit of kind of menthol-y kind of smoke on it as well. So really just use that flavour wheel and pick a section and really work your way up. And if you don't think it's quite, say on the citrus side, if you don't think it's quite tropical citrus like a pineapple, but it's more orange, then absolutely, you're not wrong. It's whatever your palate decides it is and whatever your palate can pick up on. This is what the real exploration and getting into whiskey is all about. It's trying to explore a whiskey and seeing what you take it from. So does the flavour change as you swallow it? That's the finish. The finish of the whiskey's how you perceive a taste after it's been swallowed. It's no longer on your tongue, on your palate. The finish can be described as short, as long, as mid, as lingering, and the finish can change over a glass of whiskey as well. Right at the start, you might not perceive any finish on it at all. The flavour might disappear, but after you've done your glass, you might find a real deep cacao or dark chocolate flavour. That's what we describe as a finish. And then we repeat. Usually when I've done through the nosing, the kind of inspection of the whiskey, the colour, the viscosity, I've drank it, I've tried to understand the whiskey, I've allowed it to finish, I'm allowed it to open up, I'll go in and I'll add a little drop of water. So let's add a tiny wee little drop here because we don't have much left in the glass. That's one little drop of water, and it's amazing how much that can change. High strength whiskies can take more water, but usually a little water at a time goes a long way. Whiskies turn more sooty, more ashy. The fruitiness is gone, the sourness is gone, the salty, the savoury, and that ashy campfireness has came back. So if you've enjoyed that today, I'd really like if you guys could give us a thumbs up, you know, give us a subscribe. Throw some comments in the comment box down below. What whiskey really opened up this love of whiskies for you and really got you into thinking that, oh, that's way more deeper than just a burn and a real astringency. For me, it was the R10. There's way more depth of flavour in that, and you really realise how deep and complex whiskies can be. But really, I'd love to know what whiskies kind of opened that passion up for you guys. And this is really what this video is all about. It's just to share and give people, you know, give a good basis of where to move from on whiskies. You'll develop your own techniques and you'll drink whiskey the way you like it. Like I said, it's not a be all and end all. If you don't have a Glencairn, you can't enjoy whiskey. It's absolute nonsense. Enjoy whiskey the way you like to drink it. So thanks for watching. I don't have much left, but we'll cheers you to that and hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.